Welcome back, pro wrestling fans. Welcome back, IWC. It's your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy. And I tell it like it is. I'll say that to say this, coming to you live to tape 25 feet below the surface of the earth, here for another episodic YouTube adventure and story time on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel, here for Chaos Corner. Drop an elbow on that like button. Share, subscribe. Let's get us in the algorithm. Become a member. Not needed, but much appreciated. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted, raw dog for you, the fans. My over 50 years as a fan, a historian, a researcher, an agent, a producer, a scout, a smark, a mark. That's right, I said it, a mark. And of course, my over 3 decades as a pro wrestling manager, 2-time Hall of Famer who took the fucking bumps, booked well over 100 times a year as an independent pro wrestling manager, traveling all over this country, coming out 2, 3, 4 times a show, an event with my entire goon squad. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Let that marinate. And welcome back to the first live show of 2025 here on Chaos Corner. This show is dedicated in remembrance to my oldest brother, who just passed away 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. I love you, Guru. I'll never forget you. I'll see you down the road, and I'll see you on the other side. So I ask for a moment of silence for my brother Mark, who passed at only 63 years old. I love you, man. And thank you, everyone out there, for your support, your greetings. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. My moderators, Austin Nance and the OTS Tribal Queen, and the entire pro wrestling community. A moment of silence. God bless you all. All right, fans. Once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's get off to a banger, as the kids say, of a start in 2025. I can't thank you enough for all the support in 2024. Well over 1 million total views, 2,500 subscribers, and it's all because of you. This is a temporary distraction, a much needed stress reliever, and I hope everyone's doing okay. I pray for all the folks out in California and those horrific fires, all the folks down in Texas in the storms, everyone's still recovering from the hurricanes, Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, wars, rumors of wars, politics, border invasion, crime, natural disasters, the economy. The inauguration is a week away. So be prepared. Stay mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually fit. Because if he's for us, no one else can be against us. Stay with like-minded people. Keep your head on a swivel. And get yourself in that good book. I'm trying to be the best I can be every day. So if we all do that, maybe we have a chance. It's going to get tough in 2025. I'm giving reality. I'm giving facts. That's why you're here. And in order to get respect, you have to start with respecting yourself. Once you do that, you open other people's minds to respecting you. Because there's 3 types of people in this world. Those who don't know what happened, no offense. Yeah, you too. Those who wonder what happened, again, no offense. And people like the GOC Big Daddy that make things happen. Grab a snack, grab a beverage. We're going to have a good time here. I've tried to start and restart this episode probably 4 times, maybe 5 times, trying to get back my mojo, get back into it. We're all going through some hard times. And for all those we've lost in 2024, I'm going to come back with an episode, a show, an event, running down those we lost in 2024, including my oldest brother. And of course, just within the last 24 hours, Black Bart. So rest in peace, Black Bart. I know he was sick. And I just want to give my condolences to the family. And again, prayers for everyone around this country. There's a lot I want to say, but I'm not going to say right now. It's not the time nor the place. This is a pro wrestling channel, basically. Although if you go to the playlist, there's over 5,000 videos. If you go to the shorts, you'll see my family, my granddaughter, my daughter, my brothers, my friends, the current company that I still work for, my home company at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling on all social media platforms. We have the class of 2025 Hall of Fame induction ceremonies coming up on January 19th, along with Wild Wild Wrestling at the legendary Cadillac Ranch. You know who Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling is besides yours truly, who still does the color commentary and the play-by-play. Paul Roma, Mario Mancini, Paul Perez, and Big Dave Paradise, a.k.a. Steve Tracy. All four men worked under the guidance of the WWF or WCW. I don't have to say any more about that. And speaking of shows, because this is a fucking show, it's not a podcast, there's two podcasts that I want you to go out and listen to. Hey Roma, hey Roma, hey Roma. And that would be with Paul Roma and Mario Mancini. On all social media platforms, especially on YouTube. Hey Roma, which is under the guidance and network of Power and Glory, the podcast. Also with Paul Roma, Emir, the host. And of course, Mario Mancini as Roma's sidekick. As you see, the chains are falling off me. That's a signal. That's my background. That's my past. That's who I am. So go out and check out Hey Roma, Roma Nation and Mancini's Maniacs, and Power and Glory, the podcast. You want to talk about truth, reality, knowing this industry, knowing this business, today's topics and current trends? You'll listen to Paul Roma and Mario Mancini. Again, Roma, the head trainer at Paradise Alley, and of course Mario Mancini, the owner of Paradise Alley. Let me pick up the chains. I just don't feel right unless I'm wrapped in chains. Go to this description here, go to my bio, and you'll see what the fuck I'm all about. Most of you already know me out there that are on this channel. Stand by, stand by. And then we're going to get into story time. I don't know how long we're going to go, half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and then I'm going to come back with some more content. Again, Austin, Jen, if you will, the Tribal Queen. Thank you guys for being here. I know you're busy, you have a lot going on, but I appreciate when you're here, holding it down, keeping it real, and maintaining in the premier chats. Feels good to be back. It really does. The writing was on the wall. Vince McMahon Sr.'s decision to leave the National Wrestling Alliance was confirmation that his son was no longer abiding by any of the old handshake agreements. It appeared to be proof that Vincent Kennedy McMahon, that's good shit, pal, was going to ignore the existing structure of organized pro wrestling and test the perseverance of promoters all over the United States and Canada. Concerned territorial heads with long-standing ties to McMahon Sr. went to their phones and sought conciliation. They wanted promises from him that his son was not plotting takeover attempts of their regions. Yeah, you see where that got him. But what could the elder McMahon promise? He possessed no stock or membership in any organization and was privately battling cancer. Already with notable feathers in his cap, McMahon Jr. and his new ally, Jim Barnett, were ready to push the envelope. And Ohio was the central battleground. The WWF had been working on a full invasion strategy for more than a year and acquired a local station, WAKR 23, out of Akron, with reach to Cleveland. That date, January 8th, 1983.
Front camera.
You see the mechanical bitches here at AI, right? Always listening, I'm always watching. Someone detected at the front door. You see what's going on here, right? And you see the lawsuit that's coming out against all this, 95 million or billion, because they do, and have finally admitted, the Gov, that they listen to your conversations. They send it out by email and to sponsors and other people. So they're always listening, like I'm always saying. People want to talk about conspiracy theorists as I bounce off this subject right now. It's not a conspiracy when 90% of it turns out to be true. Do your due diligence, do your research. I say it all the time. It's nice to have this for a distraction, stress reliever, but not only staying in that good book, do your research. Use your discernment on what's happening in today's world. That's coming from the heart, and I really mean it. And I know I'm bouncing off topic here. It's another show for another time.
Someone was detected at your front camera.
Are you listening? Because that bitch is. When I say something, you could take it to the bank of watch over you. You get it? Do you understand now? And that's a shoot. I know you're here for entertainment. Hopefully you'll be here for the whole show. Now remember, we are reading this and reviewing this at the very same time together for the first time. So bear with my linguistic skills as I rumble, stumble, fumble, mumble, and bumble sometimes. But that's what I do. You guys know that. Again, take your notebooks out. I present this for a reason. So you're better off when you walk out of here than when you walked in here. So you can carry on a fucking conversation at the next venue, a sporting event, at the pub, the tavern, the watering hole, with your coworkers, with the community in the IWC, if you will. Which most of you had a brain of a dehydrated BB anyway. No offense, man. What I say, kayfabe, that's not for my followers and subscribers. And remember, guys, if you're here, 30 to 40% of my audience here, according to the analytics page, because you know that I know. And now you know that I know, we both know that you're watching. It gets back to me. It's a female demographic right here. Just about 40%. United States, United Kingdom, Canada, all points in between. We go global from post to post and pillar to coast. Post to post, coast to coast, pillar to post, whatever the fuck it is. You know what Bully Ray said to me, right? Back in like 05, 06, when I was still active, taking the fucking bumps, managing the Outcast Killers, Oman Tortuga, Diablo Santiago, and going for the NWA World Tag Team titles in a series of table matches throughout the greater New England tri-state Northeast area in the shadows of Titan Towers against Bubba Ray and Devon, Bully Ray, if you will, Team 3D, the Dudley Boys. Co-host of Busted Open Radio, Busted Open After Dark, Busted Open 24/7, two-time Hall of Famer Bully Ray, perhaps one of the greatest tag teams of all times. He said to me, backstage in the dressing room, he said, give Big Daddy 6 spots and he'll fuck up 5 of them. I consider that to be a compliment. What? Man, I haven't been. This is my first show of 2025. Cut me some slack, man. I'm having coffee. I don't know if we're going to get through this. She keeps interrupting. Again, January 8th, 1983. Let's get back to focus, chaos. Focus, man, focus. The following month, McMahon's Workers debuted at Akron High School. The promotion added regular shows in East Liverpool and Struthers, both near the Pennsylvania border. 8 months later, within a week of the NWA convention, the WWF renewed its Ohio expansion, and having Barnett around was a major benefit. On Saturday, August 27th, 1983, the WWF debuted on WCPO Channel 9 in Cincinnati. Speaking of that, do you remember that old show, the sitcom back in the, I guess it was probably, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s? WKRP in Cincinnati. Lonnie Anderson! I got tired of packing and unpacking. I go town to town, up and down the dial. Maybe you and me, we weren't meant to be. But baby, think of me once in a while. I'm at WKRP in Cincinnati. Not bad, right? I think I got the words right. Listen, it could be worse. I could be singing, The Love Boat soon we'll be making another run. The Love Boat, something for everyone. Set your mind on adventure, your heart on a new romance. It's love. Dun-dun-dun. Welcome aboard, it's love. The Love Boat. No. Too early? Too much? Too soon? The Love Boat? We're going back in a time machine here on Chaos Corner. Listen, it's my first show this year. Cut me some slack. I'll get back to this. The territories, man. They sure got rid of me. Woo! All right, where were we? August 27th, 1983. The same station Barnett had used back in the late 50s and late 60s in Cincinnati. Barnett still had plenty of contacts in the area, and with a sellable product hyped by the fact that it was from New York City, he bowled over station executives and secured TV time. An established Georgia championship wrestling town, Cincinnati was quickly followed by an assault on Dayton, and Ole Anderson was in danger of losing two of his prime cities to the WWF. McMahon and Barnett shrewdly prompted the management at Dayton's WKEF 2022 to cancel World Championship Wrestling on Saturday afternoons and replace it in straight away with WWF's Championship Wrestling. A short time later, an official from the Hara Arena, the main wrestling venue in Dayton, informed Georgia Championship Wrestling and the World Wrestling Federation that he had also signed an exclusive deal with the facility, thus leaving Anderson completely out in the cold. If you guys can pick up on what I'm putting out there. Remember, we're doing this together for the first time. On October 8th and October 9th, Andre the Giant led the charge into Cincinnati and Dayton, and his gigantic footprint captured the imagination of local fans. As for Barnett, his value was apparent to the WWF, and he made a public appearance at a TV taping in Allentown as a demonstration of his new loyalty. McMahon had another ace up his sleeve. On the morning of Sunday, August 28, 1983, a new World Wrestling Federation offering replacement Joe Blanchard's Southwest Championship Wrestling, telecast on the USA Cable Network. That's how far back it went. All American Wrestling made its debut with McMahon himself serving as the host. The patriotic-themed program was a stunner to fans expecting grappling from San Antonio. But Blanchard could no longer afford the costly payments to the network, and McMahon swooped in. The first hour of the telecast introduced viewers to the WWF champion, I was going to say the then, Bob Backlund, including snippets of his bouts against superstar Billy Graham, Ken Patera, Jesse Ventura, and Adrian Adonis. McMahon put over Backlund's achievements, his work ethic, and his popularity. By showing his victories over Adonis and Ventura, well known in SCW and AWA territories respectively, he bolstered his credibility in non-WWF regions. Notably, though, the World Wrestling Federation wasn't a stranger to the USA Network. It had been broadcasting taped WWF footage from Madison Square Garden on Monday nights for some time. Wow. And the Sunday presentation gave them complete coverage. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Adding to the reach, or in the reach of the WOR, McMahon held dominating share of the cable market with Georgia Championships Wrestling program on WTBS being the only real national competitor. Think about it. Listen to what I'm saying.
Someone was detected at your front camera.
You see what's going on here at the Ponderosa, right? All American Wrestling would ultimately become a compilation program with footage from the Garden, the regular Pennsylvania tapings, and surprisingly matches from outside WWF territories. Notwithstanding his dispute with NWA member Ole Anderson, McMahon featured bouts from Florida, World Class, and the Mid-Atlantic territories, all Alliance affiliates, plus matches from the AWA and Mid-South regions. McMahon talked up the wrestlers, Ric Flair, the Von Erichs, and Hulk Hogan among them, who literally got booed out of the fucking building on the debut on January 6th of this 2025 on Netflix for $5 billion. Whether you're booing him because you think he's a racist, a pathological liar, a bum because of his politics, that's on you. Get your head out of your ass. Use your own discernment. This is America, allegedly. And we'll see what happens moving forward. Giving other promoters, stars, national exposure on his outlet. Very smart by VKM at the time. Right? Putting everybody else over, other territories, other stars. That's why he is he was, and now they still are, the mothership, the machine. No one can top the WWF, WWE, WWF. It's just that easy. The only one that ever really could compete with them was the NWA and World Class, maybe in the late 70s into the early 80s. WCW for a time and the Monday Night Wars. But who else? Even when there was the big three, the big four, if you wanted to throw in the advent of ECW. I mean, let's be honest. And the WWF sucked for a long time, too. Whether it be in the early 90s, the mid to later 2000s. I mean, let's face it, the product was garbage, even back to 2015, 2017, 2018. Not the stars, not the talent. The way it was run, the booking, the storylines, the writing. But with that being said, and I've said it on other people's shows before and in their chat rooms, it's up to the talent and the character to put over and follow and make it believable and sell it from what they give you, whether you like it or don't. And the perfect example I talked about was Dusty Rhodes and the polka dots. You take chicken shit and you make chicken salad. I mean, it really is up to the talent, no matter how bad the writing is. Stories sell. I get it. I say it all the time. Emotional investment, ring psychology, storytelling. It's also up to the talent. They are half involved in this along with the writing. It's just that simple. And when you take the boys out of the business of the background and the stories and telling the stories, which I just repeated there, when you take people who were in the business and in the fucking ring out and bring in people who've never experienced it, it's never gonna work. You get that, right? I know some of you are listening. We're only 25 minutes in. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be here for a little while. And if you're watching the replay or if you're watching in the chat, because I get a decent amount of views, some great, some not so great. If you're here, hit the like button. Drop an elbow on it, pick up your chair and fucking smash it. It's free. It's for me. Get us in the algorithm, the suggested videos. This is a very unique station. No better than anyone else, just different. I don't put a lot of green screens and music and add all kinds of stuff, which I respect that. That's great. To show you how much I love the product and what I'm doing for you, the fans, I give it to you like this. As I always say, raw dog, face of the product, into my home, into my Ponderosa, so you know who the fuck I am. Capiche? No me jodas, Marco, muévete, culo, pendejo, no offense, man, they nada, what I say? Peha, or mele, hini kane, pupule, wiki wiki, aloha and mahalo. Konnichiwa, bitches, arigato from the K-San. We're talking about the territories. The sharing of precious national TV time with fellow promoters was a gentlemanly maneuver for McMahon, and he certainly didn't appear to be the impulsive threat people were making him out to be, at least not at that point. That left two questions. Did the McMahons only leave the NWA because of the WWF's ongoing feud with Georgia Championship Wrestling? Think about it. And did they still plan to cooperate with Alliance members to ensure mutual prosperity? At the time, the answer to both questions seemed to be yes. And a high level of cooperation remained in place. Nevertheless, GCW wasn't going to sit idly by. Ole Anderson poured his stars into Ohio cities and strengthened his talent-sharing relationship with Jim Crockett. But fans were going to choose which promotion to support in places like Cincinnati and Dayton. And with good competition, the wrestling public was undoubtedly the winner. And just like today in 2025. More competition, much needed viable competition, is great for not only the guys and the gals, the talent, the performers. It's great for us too. And for all you people out there that are making money off this. Because I know I'm not. I gotta jerk off the dog to feed the cat. No offense, man. What I say, I'm trying to be rated PG. But I'm just giving you the facts, man. I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what you can count on here. In December 1983, article from 83, sports writer Michael Pelissero of the Cincinnati Enquirer didn't offer an opinion regarding the wrestling war after witnessing a WWF show at the Cincinnati Gardens. He did, however, take a non-serious approach to the pseudo-mayhem and noted the passion of enthusiasts in the crowd. The madcap characters of the WWF inspired reaction. Whether it was the simple awesomeness of Andre the Giant, the high-flying Superfly Jimmy Snuka, or the aggressive behavior of Sergeant Slaughter, fans were usually fully connected to the action in the ring. Slaughter, who had made his return to the WWF earlier in the year after a lengthy absence, was one of the promotion's top heels, and fans loved to shout Gomer in his direction. Other newcomers to the organization in August to September of '83 included the masked superstar Tony Atlas and the Iron Sheik. Three former stars from Georgia Championship Wrestling. Again, there was no coincidence about these signings. McMahon wanted to use Anderson's former wrestlers against him in Ohio, and this tactic would become a staple in the WWF arsenal. In terms of McMahon acquiring more territory, Detroit was high on the list, and its geographic location made it a central priority. Barnett's history in the Motor City helped. And in the closing weeks and months of 1983, where at that point I'm a mere, 20, 21 years old. Wow. Time is on my side. Yes, it is. Time is on our side. Yes, it is. You'll come running back. You'll come running back to me. Time. No. Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? Anyone? That's why you're here. It's an entertainment extravaganza, a bonanza, if you will. All right, where were we? The 51-year-old proprietor of the Superstars of Wrestling promotion to discuss a possible deal. The WWF contacted George Cannon. Cannon, a former wrestler and manager known for his crybaby gimmick and his 300-plus pound frame, was receptive to McMahon's initial inquiry. His SOW promotion, or so we at 400 pounds, crybaby Cannon, looked like 5 pounds of sausage in a 3-pound bag. He had the same decline that the Sheik had faced in Detroit, and despite great determination, he was unable to recapture to its former glory. Remember, we're reading this for the first time together. Cut me some slack. An amiable guy with far-reaching contacts in the business, Cannon had solid TV and arena contracts. But getting steady talent was a problem. He'd work with groups from Montreal, Indianapolis, and elsewhere to attract a better turnout without luck. He'd heard the rumors of GCW, Georgia Championship Wrestling's planned invasion of Detroit. So striking a deal with McMahon made even more sense to the crybaby. McMahon and Cannon on a 3-way deal with 1/3 going to Titan Sports, 1/3 to Cannon, and the remaining third to the Olympia Stadium Corporation. The administrator of Detroit's 2 main venues, the Cobo Hall and the Joe Louis Arena. For an annual take of upwards to $60,000, which in today's thing would probably be $500,000 if you use the inflation calculator, Cannon would remain involved in promotions, handling the local operations on behalf of the WWF. But there was another aspect to the agreement, one with far greater ramifications. For years, Cannon ran a popular TV show entitled Superstars of Wrestling across Canada and parts of the United States. He was still generating original content in 1983, and McMahon not only wanted to assume production rights to the local presentation on Channel 9, CBET, out of Windsor, but hoped to utilize the new program, also called the Superstars of Wrestling, in other cities as well. Particularly, the show would be used.
Someone was detected at your front camera.
Particularly, the show would be used as the WWF's main telecast in newly signed markets. I was going to say matches. I got a match. My ass in your face. No offense, man. I'm only kidding. I love you guys. I'm a little cantankerous today, full of piss and vinegar. I realize it's January 10th. I got a lot going on in my mind, not only the loss of my cousin, the loss of my oldest brother a week or so back. Tomorrow, this weekend, is 10 years that my oldest daughter passed away, and also 10 years for my mom, within 3 months of each other back in 2015. So, not to be super personal, but you guys know I'm personal here anyway. This is my way of releasing it. So it's just a lot of emotions, a little crazy. Although I'm like this all the time, so it's not really an excuse. I just want to give a little personal attention to my family and friends and those out there that have supported me, and let you guys know, because we're all going through it. We all have our own story. We all have our own cross to bear. And I know all of you are going through something right now along with me. But here on my channel, it's the 10-year memorial this weekend of my daughter and my mom, and of course my cousin 3 or 4 months ago in that time frame, and then my oldest brother just over the last week or so. I'll be back. I'm bouncing back, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. I see the comments. I appreciate it. I've gotten a lot of emails. I've gotten a lot of inboxes on over on Twitter, aka X. You guys know you can follow me over there. That's the best place to be. I'm on there almost daily at Big Daddy GOC on X. Get a Twitter account. Come over there and follow me. We can converse. You guys know my email addresses. I've given them out, and I've gotten a huge reply back. Chaos Big Daddy, the number 2 on yahoo.com. CHAOS. Come on now. Chaos Big Daddy, the number 2 on yahoo.com, or Chaos Big Daddy, the number 11 at Gmail. Chaos Big Daddy 11 at Gmail. Reach out to me. Inbox me, like I said, over on X. Stay in touch with me. We are some sort of, kind of family, brothers and sisters here. Am I right? I see a lot of you over on other places, other chats, especially the main channels that I'm on moderating. OTS, Off the Script with JD. His sidekicks, the Salamonster and Jesse, the Chi-Town Smart. And of course, over on the Don Tony Kevin Castle Show with Don Tony. You guys can catch me there. We can converse there besides this channel. Or the Wrestling Council. A smaller channel, but very good product. Comic Book Bob, Hollywood, Johnny. Catch me on those channels. Of course, I'm also briefly bouncing back and forth. I'm always lurking in the chat room over at Chi-Town Smart on YouTube, and that's Jesse's channel. You guys can catch me everywhere besides here. Go to my community page here. I still report live, real time on the WWE and AEW. Of course, the independent scene, my home at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. I'm a big fan of House of Glory, Beyond Wrestling, the independents, which are the backbone of this fucking industry. Independent pro wrestling, the backbone of this industry, the backbone of this business. Don't forget it, even in this day. I know I'm losing track. We're over 35 minutes in here. I don't want to break this up into 2 parts because it's a great chapter. So, again, understand where I'm coming from personally, and again, bless all you guys. It means a lot to me. It really does. And I'm opening up here more than I normally do. So I appreciate you guys even listening to me, and as we go try to get through this unbelievable story of the territories. History. That's why you're here. So we're talking about Crybaby Cannon, WWF, Georgia Championship Wrestling, taking over of the territories. We're in Detroit. We're in Canada. Superstars of wrestling with remarkable production values. As we continue here with the takeover by the WWF, we're circa 1983 in the time machine. More sophisticated than the grainy efforts of Cannon and other promotions, Superstars of Wrestling was going to make a powerful first impression on fans all over North America. Cannon agreed to the stipulations of the deal and primed Detroit for the WWF's debut on December 30th, 1983. On that evening, just over 2,000 people saw Andre the Giant, Jimmy Snuka, and Rocky Johnson win a 3-fall victory over the Wild Samoans. On the undercard were 2 of Cannon's stars, the Great Wojo and Chris Carter. McMahon also added Northern California to his circuit by achieving TV on Channel 36 KICU, serving the San Francisco Bay Area. And he ran a live event in San Jose on September 30th, 1983. Inclement weather may have stifled the attendance, but only $2,000 were on hand, 2,000, to see Andre the Giant topple Big John Studd and Jimmy Snuka beat Don Morocco by countout. Talk about low attendance with legends and superstars. It goes all the way back in history, just like it does today. It always repeats itself. Kind of like my mind. It's like a lazy Susan, just like history. It'll all come back around. Regional favorite Pat Patterson was also on the card, winning over Alex Smirnoff. Smirnoff incidentally participated in one of the WWF's most memorable promotional efforts for San Jose, occurring during appearance on Channel 36 Prize Movie, the TV show. Interviewed by host Steve Deeney, Smirnoff became a bit rambunctious, and the 2 men launched into an unscripted and impromptu wrestling match on the set. The chaotic scene was great publicity for the WWF, and nobody was hurt in the melee. Deeney later said Smirnoff could have been a little nicer off camera. And I guess he was much nicer. Couldn't be nicer, according to Deanie. I remember Smirnoff like yesterday. He was one tough son of a bitch. Not every expansion idea McMahon had worked out. He was said to have approached NWA member Dan Owen of the Portland area with a buyout proposal sometime late in the '83. But Owen turned him down. If he attained the Pacific Northwest, he would have controlled the entire coast. Around November '83, he reportedly offered NWA World Heavyweight Champion Harley Race $250,000, which today would be well over $1 million in the inflation calculator, to abandon the alliance and join the WWF. The money was alluring. But Race refused to turn his back on the NWA and remained loyal, which there isn't a lot today in 2025. His defection would have been crippling to the alliance and given McMahon extraordinary momentum in his expansion endeavors. Although the offer was made in secret, those in the know had proof that McMahon Jr. was exactly cooperating with the NWA to ensure mutual success. Wasn't exactly cooperating. You guys know what I meant. His aggressive actions were one-sided, and in effect, a de facto state of war existed between the WWF and the NWA. No shit, Sherlock. That's kind of heavy there. It just wasn't public knowledge yet. In fact, the NWA-affiliated wrestlers continued to appear on WWF's All-American Wrestling program going into 1984. But McMahon was thinking far outside the box, like he usually did. No pun intended, outside the box. And the motivated staff of Titan Sports was working to make his vision a reality. 33-year-old Howard Finkel was the company's very first employee, and his face and voice were well known to fans. From Newark, New Jersey, Finkel worked as a ring announcer for McMahon Sr. before being hired by Titan in 1981. In addition to lending his familiar voice to various events, he narrated TV voiceover promoters, helped with talent, and added his creative input wherever it was needed. That's why I always say wear several hats, carry your gear if you're a talent, get involved in wrestling, learn everything from the announcing to the ring crew to the setup, the breakdown, flyers, promotions, sales. That's what you do. And to be a talent if you want to be more valuable for people to hire you. That's what I did. That's why I had a modicum of success. Finkel was joined by Ed Cohen, who was 6 years younger and Titan's second official employee. A 1978 business graduate of Roger Williams University in Rhode Island, Cohen shared McMahon's ideals when it came to brand development. He saw the potential for growth and approached wrestling from a fresh outsider perspective. Although McMahon and his team implemented a new business model for professional wrestling, and in doing so strived to replace nearly all the industry's old philosophies with new ideas and formulas. Even the lexicon had to change, beginning with the word wrestling itself. Over time, their business became sports entertainment, which really fucked up everything. For as much as you could say you love it and you like the product and you got to advance with the times and chaos, don't be an old crow. Don't ever underestimate the crow. Perhaps one of the smartest birds on the planet. Don't underestimate the crow. That's what I'm saying here. Respect. Rearview mirror, look back. Paying homage to those who came before you. Without them, you can't get here to go there. Full speed ahead. Do you understand what I'm saying? I know most of you do. I'm just saying, as a hypothetical, to throw it out there. You respond. You tell me what you think. I want to hear from you. Fan Mail Friday's right around the corner. I got about 150 letters. Who knew, right? Back where we were. Altogether, McMahon and his team implemented a new business model for professional wrestling. I already said, especially with the word wrestling itself and sports entertainment. And the fans now were consumers. It was the job of Titan Sports to market its product to the masses, and it was going to use every creative way known to mankind to generate sales. The repackaging of wrestling was an essential element to Titan's uphill climb. Since the popular qualities of the sport were already well known to the public, there were two segments of people: those who loved wrestling and those who hated it. There was a unique middle ground for casual fans, but McMahon wanted to widen the WWF's audience by completely reformulating wrestling's image. He wanted families, not cigar-smoking, beer-guzzling roughnecks, and he was willing to sanitize his promotion even at the risk of losing longtime supporters, and that's what they do today as well. Think they give a fuck about the fans with the ticket prices, the merch, everything else? You have taken a cucking out to Hollywood like you did on Netflix? I'm just calling it like it is. You're going to get the truth here. Pandering to the elite, ticket prices where families have to sacrifice their mortgage, basically, or their kids' future, or their savings to go to a show. AEW's involved in this as well. No wonder why they're breaking ticket records and gate records and receipts and money, and they're bragging it out to the blue collars who can't even attend these shows unless you pay a price, a big, hefty price. It says it right here. History, as I said, repeats itself. They're telling you, not only Vince, they're doing it today too, with Nick Khan, Triple H. They're all involved in it, not to mention Tony Khan. It's just the facts. They've priced families out just like sports in general have. Should I? Should I go back to that mechanical bitch and conversate? We're only 45 minutes in. Don't go anywhere. It's the first show of 2025 on the channel. Alexa, play Tropical Thunderstorm Sounds. Seeing that the environment is insane right now, and that's the one thing we can't control. Only worry about the things within your own control. If you can't control it, don't worry about it. I'm trying to let that go myself. We're all the same here. You see how we intertwine this program, this show? Where were we? The repackaging of Titan's uphill climb. Fans, consumers, the way they treat everyone, the prices. Sanitizes promotion. Risk losing the longtime supporters. That's who we are. No matter what age you are. To old school promoters and fans, this was a huge step in the wrong direction. McMahon didn't see it that way and planned to force wrestling's evolution by redefining how the sport was marketed, presented, and perceived. And even though Vince is gone, and this one's gone, and that one's gone, and different companies have folded, and people talk about Bischoff and Russo and Pritchard and Dunn and whoever else the fuck you want to talk about, and praise what's going on today. They learned from Vince Jr., McMahon, you know that. The proof is right here, and it's still happening to this day. Use your discernment, I say it all the time. Don't be fooled. Appreciate it for what it is. It ain't that serious. Where was I? Don't go anywhere. At its core, the WWF was already far more colorful than rival promotions, and McMahon's talent roster was formulaic. He had his popular babyfaces, a group of clean-cut wrestlers who smiled and shook hands with fans. Then there were the rule breakers, a group of snarling heels, constantly gaining heat for their brutal actions. Categorizing the wrestlers even further, McMahon had wrestlers pigeonholed by their cultural heritage. Native Americans, Chief Jay Strongbow, Jules Strongbow. Asians, Mr. Fuji, Tiger Chung Lee, Samoans Afa and Sika, and Puerto Ricans Pedro Morales, or by a performer's specialty. Masked wrestlers a la the Masked Superstar, the Invaders, high flyers, aka Jimmy Snuka, and muscular performers like Ivan Putski, Tony Atlas, and The Rock, the Magnificent Don Morocco. Each wrestler fulfilled a specific need in the WWF's machinery. And if a wrestler left the organization for one reason or another, McMahon simply filled the gap with someone else. McMahon liked to capitalize on current events. And with Russia and Iran always in the news in the 1980s, he promoted heels Ivan Koloff, who belongs in the fucking Hall of Fame, and the Iron Sheik. Interview segments were prepped with pop culture references to make the WWF appear trendy. Today, everybody's too offended by everything. Too woke. Libtards. No offense, man. TV squash matches were purposely short to provide the audience with instant gratification. Now they can't get enough of gratification with the high-flying daredevil risk maneuvers of what they put these stars through. More and more shock value. When is enough enough? Same shit, same matches. Pardon my language, I might get stepped on because of that. The star grappler of the bout would dominate the offense and crush his opponent with a noteworthy finishing move, which the commentators incessantly talked up. They would hype this ongoing feud or his climb up the WWF ladder, giving the impression that he was a wrestler to watch in the future. The balance between the action in the ring and the crafty salesmanship of the commentators was one of the WWF's strengths, and McMahon himself was a master in the way he advertised his wrestlers. Managers like Classy Freddie Blassie, Captain Lou Albano were also exemplary in that regard, which is missing in today's business. You dropped the fucking ball on that one back in the middle to late 90s. Don't get me started on the position of pro wrestling managers and TNA and eye candy and all that garbage. Stand by. I told you we were going to be here for a while. Thank you guys for standing by. Blassie, Albano, the Grand Wizard, Jimmy Hart, Paul Ellering, Gary Hart, J.J. Dillon, even Sir Oliver Humperdinck, the Dink I was going to say, even guys like number one Paul Jones, heck, Bill Alfonso, Joel Gertner, as we go on more in time, J.J. Dillon, back to the days. It really is a lost art and a lost form, just like the way of the tag teams in this year 2025 and the last handful of years. They don't put any importance on those two important roles that built this fucking business, along with the main character, which is the grappler himself. Can't make it up. Titan Sports also experienced a physical overhaul in the latter stages of 1983, when the company uprooted from South Yarmouth, Massachusetts, and moved to Greenwich, Connecticut. How many of you knew that? The building was 35 miles from the city, less than an hour's drive, and gave them good access to JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark airports. The proximity to New York made the sales pitch that Titan was based in the Big Apple almost true. New York had always represented wrestling's biggest money territory and carried a lot of weight in the industry. The new headquarters went hand in hand with Titan's new national goals. Part of this consolidation included a handful of new organizations' wide policies. For one, he placed a ringside ban on all non-Titan photographers, a move that dramatically affected the way the media covered the promotion. McMahon's reason was simple. He wanted to create his own WWF periodical, and on July 5th, 1983, Titan Sports Publications, Inc., was incorporated in Massachusetts. The WWF had long enjoyed a partnership with Norm Kietzer of Minnesota, the publisher of the widely popular Wrestling News magazine. As part of that collaboration, Kietzer was responsible for 2 WWF souvenir arena programs: WWF Championship Wrestling and Major League Wrestling. In 1983, Mike LaBelle's longtime assistant, Jeff Walton, joined Kietzer as an editor and was a big help in coordinating WWF material for the various publications. Following the ban on photographers like Bill Apter, George Napolitano, legends, loved them both, there was speculation that Kietzer was going to publish a WWF-only magazine since he already had the mechanisms in place. But legend has it that McMahon wanted him to cancel his agreements with other promotions to do so. See how this works, right? Kietzer was the central hub for moments. Wait, hold on. Kietzer was the central hub for high-quality programs and worked with the AWA, the Mid-South, and the NWA, and he wasn't interested in working only with the WWF. As a result, McMahon abruptly severed his ties with the Minnesota outfit and launched Victory magazine, published out of Greenwich, with Edward Helinski and Jeff Walton as editors. This project would ultimately evolve into the WWF magazine in 1984. The in-house publication was a great tool to put over the talent. Featured photographs of all the popular stars and advertised merchandise, a revenue stream increasingly valuable to Titan. McMahon was a fucking genius. I don't agree with it. Surprisingly, McMahon authorized his magazine editors to feature a limited amount of content about other territories, including an article entitled The Von Erichs, a dominant family of wrestling, in the inaugural issue of the WWF magazine during the spring of 1984. I hope your notebooks are still out. Like the footage of outside territories on All American Wrestling, the article seemed to compound the confusion about the WWF's relationship with other promotions. On one hand, Titan seemed to be heading toward an isolationist policy at odds with other territories. And on the other, McMahon popped up the stars of World Class or Florida on TV and in print, sharing his national exposure with NWA members Jack Atkinson, aka Fritz Von Erich, and Eddie Graham. Perhaps these gestures by McMahon Jr. were last vestiges of his father's friendship with those longtime associates. Making sense, maybe? But promoting non-WWF superstars was another way to garner interest in new territories. For instance, having an article on the popular Von Erichs was a surefire way to increase magazine sales in the Dallas market and help familiarize those fans with the WWF roster. Think about it. The Von Erichs were also on TV in many WWF cities through syndication. Remember, World Class was huge. And McMahon might have been looking for crossover viewers. Makes sense in the strategy and business model of things. I'm not saying I agree with it. On the booking side of things, McMahon Jr. wanted to strengthen his creative team by hiring a first-class matchmaker. There were a number of options, but McMahon Sr. had a man in mind, and as a favor to his son, reached out to George Scott. Scott, at 54 years old, had more than 3 decades of experience in the business, both on the mat and behind the scenes. He was long known as one half of the Scott Brothers tag team, along with his real-life sibling, Sandy. And prior to plying his trade in the Mid-Atlantic region, he had honed his craft as a booker alongside Stu Hart in Calgary. Back in 1973, Scott had taken the reins of Jim Crockett Promotions and transformed it from a middle-of-the-pack organization into arguably the hottest, most talked about territory in the country. His task wasn't easy. He actually rewired the promotion from the ground up and slowly altered Crockett's antiquated booking philosophies into a cool and stylish new system. He pushed young guys like Ric Flair, Jimmy Snuka, Ricky Steamboat, and Roddy Piper, while relying heavily on veterans like Johnny Valentine and Wahoo McDaniel. The mixture of talent offered intriguing feuds, and Scott was careful to protect his wrestlers with sensible scenarios that consistently piqued the interest of fans over a period of years. Even with some redundancy of matchups, his creative methodology kept Crockett thriving into the early 80s, and his influence remained after his 1981 departure. Scott spent time in Georgia and Oklahoma before receiving the call from McMahon Sr., and he happily accepted a job on the WWF's payroll. Ticket sales for the WWF shows fluctuated throughout '83, but it didn't take long for the core audience to warm up to a hot angle. The reemergence of heel Sergeant Slaughter made an impact on the organization, and his Marine Corps drill instructor gimmick drew immense heat. He chased Bob Backlund's WWF title for some time, but never scored a 3 count to win the belt. Jimmy Snuka was involved in the chase of his own, and his ongoing feud with Intercontinental Champion Don Muraco grabbed headlines throughout the year. The two wrestled all over the territory with many finishes ending in a count-out or disqualification before culminating in a series of cage matches. Legendary. Another attention grabber in the WWF arsenal was Andre the Giant, battling the 6'10", 350-plus pound Big John Studd. Though these matches consisted mostly of punches and kicks, the two mountainous men colliding created a good visual for spectators. I can agree with that. I was in my early and mid-20s during that feud. And even as someone who was aspiring to break into the business and already tried to break into the business, was captivated by the two men. That's what it was in the 80s, was giants. Guys that would look like pro wrestlers. Nowadays, everybody's a cruiserweight, a welterweight. Lucky to be a light heavyweight, and nobody knows how to book a big man. Back then, everybody were big men. And the smaller guys were super talented. Didn't have to. I know people will say it was slow, it was boring if you watch the 70s WWF on the network, on the cock, whatever you want to call it. But let me tell you something. It's like watching baseball. That's tradition. That's history. That's how pro wrestling was meant to be. Ring awareness, a generalship, if you will. Not all about get in, lock up, boom, outside the ring in 3 seconds and the match is over. Just on and on. Just giving you my perspective here, and I think I fucking earned it. I don't deserve it. I earned it. Where was I? We're talking about Andre the Giant and Big John Studd, and the visual that it was. It really was something. It's important to note that George Scott had a good working history with most of the WWF locker room. Slaughter, Snuka, Studd, Atlas, Mass Superstar, and the Iron Sheik had spent time in the Mid-Atlantic territory and witnessed, apologize for the linguistic skills, as I said, first time together, witnessed Scott's magic firsthand. Scott went in knowing the strengths and limitations of his wrestlers, and for a booker, that was invaluable information to have, making his transition all the easier. At the forefront of the roster was Bob Backlund, well into his 5th year as champion. Like the heavyweight title holders for the NWA and AWA, Backlund was the face of the WWF, and his sincere role model persona had made him a box office superstar. Not sure if I agree with that. But to some fans, his clean-cut traits were wearing thin. I agree with that. And they wanted a stronger personality at the top. Backlund, since defeating superstar Billy Graham in 1978, had been a credible champion on the mat, respectful of the fans and utterly humble. The WWF's rotating heel challengers worked as effectively for him as they had for Bruno Sammartino, and Backlund lived up to all of McMahon Sr.'s expectations. McMahon Sr. had always been an enthusiastic supporter of the Minnesota Grappler, and Backlund had great respect for the man who had given him the belt. During an interview in 1985, Backlund told the reporter, "I owe McMahon Sr., second to my father, more than anyone in my life." His 2015 autobiography was also dedicated to McMahon, which I have right here as I interviewed live segment of Chaos Corner in ring at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling for the Hercules Hernandez Memorial Tournament, the one and only aforementioned Bob Backlund. We also worked together in the Independents, so I got a grasp on Backlund and his history and lived through it. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Had been on board McMahon Jr. Here we go. In the 2015 autobiography, which I have here in the vault. I'm repeating. McMahon Jr. had been on board with Backlund as well and spent the entire first episode of All-American Wrestling in August 1983 touting him as the best in the world. But by December, McMahon Jr. was ready to make a dramatic decision. Backlund, he concluded, was a great champion, but to successfully market the WWF to a larger part of North America, a change was in order. The promotion needed a more charismatic star, and McMahon had someone in mind. He first had to get the belt off Backlund to a transitory title holder, and he quickly scripted a TV angle between Backlund and the Iron Sheik, setting up a match at Madison Square Garden the day after Christmas. Backlund, ever the professional, helped lay out the finish for the important bout, which would see him get caught in Sheik's powerful camel clutch. Not the camel toe, the camel clutch. What I say, man? Kayfabe, lighten up. With little hope of escaping, his manager, Arnold Scullin, would throw in the towel to signify Backlund's defeat. That's exactly how it played out. Backlund was dethroned before a shocked crowd of almost 25,000 fans at Madison Square Garden. Bear with me. We're over an hour in, but we're coming to the finish here. But who wants to go anywhere, to be honest? I hope you're still here after an hour. You'd be foolish not to be. Listen up. The following day, McMahon made another historic move when the World Wrestling Federation invaded St. Louis, the heart of the National Wrestling Alliance, and planted its flag. On December 27th, McMahon led his company into the famed Coruscant Room at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel, the site of Sam Mushnick's long-running Wrestling at the Chase television program, and stage a WWF TV taping. The arrival of the WWF on sacred NWA ground was disconcerting to Alliance officials, and Bob Geigel, the local NWA representative, was in for the fight of his life. His promotion had barely outlasted the competition of Larry Matzik, who ran opposition through the end of October before closing up. Now, Matzik, interestingly, was initially in one of WWF's St. Louis deal as a partner. But McMahon chose to go it alone and locked in deals with KPLR TV, Channel 11, and the Ballroom at the Chase Hotel. Kevin Horrigan reported on the WWF's arrival in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch on December 30th, 1983, and called McMahon's promotion the Beast of the East. He mentioned the extraordinary history of wrestling in St. Louis and acknowledged that McMahon wanted to recapture the stylishness and popularity the sport lost when Mushnick retired. St. Louis isn't that much different from other major markets, McMahon said. To quote, "We can bring in new talent, more sophisticated marketing techniques, and a new approach. The consumer, aka the fan, which is me and you, he doesn't give a shit, and they still don't to this day. I'm just telling you. The consumer isn't going to suffer. The consumer is going to be the winner. However, some people would have argued that St. Louis was greatly dissimilar to other wrestling circles. It was an entity all its own. And the hardcore local audience was definitely against outlandish gimmicks, too much in-ring drama, and anything that insulted their intelligence. They were the people who supported credible champions like Jack Briscoe, Pat O'Connor, and Lou Thesz. Although Bob Backlund and the Iron Sheik had legitimate backgrounds, the WWF was the polar opposite of Mushnick's promotion in just about every way. Fans who grew up watching the NWA now had a contrasting alternative, and whether they'd swayed by McMahon's cartoonish roster remained to be seen. McMahon's move into St. Louis had an even greater significance, which resonated deeply in the wrestling world. His effort was a full-scale declaration of war against the NWA and the territorial system, and no one could dispute that he was expanding nationally. And McMahon's December 27th taping in St. Louis managed to declare war on Verne Gagne's American Wrestling Association at the same time. I have amnesia and deja vu at the same time. I think I've forgotten this before. He did it by signing Gagne's most captivating box office superstar, Hulk Hogan. Although you'd never know it today, right? Am I right? A man who'd been waiting in the wings for a run at the AWA World Championship for months. Hogan was jumping to greener pastures in the WWF, and McMahon was riding a huge wave of momentum. Larry Matzik and Kevin Horrigan's article in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch noted, the talk in the business is that McMahon's trying to take over everything. The question is, can one profit take over an operation? One outfit take over an operation for profit? That's been run by dozens of independents? That's right, independent pro wrestling. The territories. I keep telling you guys this. I hope your notebook is still out. I don't know, but they sure got rid of me, to quote Matzik. The last part of his comments was unsettling to a certain degree, but as facts would have it, before it was all said and done, scores of others would say the same thing. And I'll say that to say this, because I tell it like it is. Wait for it. Wait for it. Don't you dare miss it.